Rev up your engine. Now, people are always wondering about buying used cop cars. Well, when you get a price like this guy did, you're not going to argue because he got it for nothing. And they list for about $4,800. So, yes, the front was wrecked. He had to replace the hood, but he got the car for nothing, nada, not 1 red cent. Now, it's an interesting police car. It's a V6 engine, 4-door. Obviously not a pursuit vehicle with a 6-cylinder engine, but runs perfectly fine. And as you can see, it's got 161,000 miles. But check it out, it's idling pretty good. We'll put it in gear now. It's idling exactly the same. This thing is still running pretty good. He's put some homemade stuff on himself. Just realize one thing. Aside from having a wicked sense of humor, the owner's no fool. You gotta take all the police emblems off. You can't pretend to be police in this car. Create a felony position of impersonating a police officer when you're just out to have some fun. Take all the police stuff off, but it's still got the souped up police engine, transmission. As we look under here, it's still got the police line of an engine and transmission in it, though my suspect is this transmission's probably been changed 2 or 3 times. You can see it's got 2 coolers built into the transmission. It also had an engine oil cooler in the front, but that broke from the wreck. He didn't put that on yet, because he's not a policeman. He's not sitting there for hours on end idling the car like they do. They have to have a lot more cooling. You're going down Road 60, you don't even need a cooler. For low speed and just sitting there, the coolers are there. They really need it. Now, don't go putting one on your car unless you spend your life hanging out in street corners, idling your engine, or going in parades at 3 miles an hour. That's for the police. You don't need that yourself. He customized it with his own light bar. Those things are getting dirt cheap these days. And you can see he's bolted a bunch on. Originally, this was metallic blue. He just painted it black. It came with the windshield. He didn't have to do that. Got a little crack in it now. Now, it's got the normal seats in it. But being a cop car, of course, you can't open the door from the inside. That doesn't do anything. They didn't want people flying out. And this used to have a barrier, but they took it out and put the original seats back in. There's no button for the lock. They don't want their prisoners escaping. So, perhaps you have unruly children at home. It's the perfect car. You can throw them in the back and they won't be able to escape while you're driving. And of course, being a cop car, the suspension's upgraded. So you can have a lot of fun with one of these things. So, start up. Starts right up. You can hear the starter hitting the flywheel a little, typical on GM. And if you listen closely, you can hear one of the lifters is ticking, but what the heck? You can hear the kitty too. The kitty's louder than the tick. And of course, being a cop car, it's got decent handling, and it's low enough to the ground that you can corner without scraping, and you really don't have to worry about it flipping over. Now, yes, the muffler's a bit loud, but there's a reason behind it. The man who owns this car is also the man who had the famous flame-throwing Volvo that I filmed months ago. And he wanted flames to come out of this engine, but he blew the muffler out, so he stopped that idea. So here we go. We're in an ex-cop car. Let's see, does it go? Makes a lot of noise. Now it's going. And the tranny still shifts smooth. Of course, this isn't like an LSV8, you know, it's a 6-cylinder engine, but it's still an ex-cop car. And since he got it for nothing, who can complain? And of course, the tranny's worn a little. You can feel you have a little hesitation there, but it goes. And believe you me, this V6 engine's gonna get a lot better gas mileage than one of those cop cars with a big old V8 engine. This even has cylinder deactivation. Not that anybody really wants that, but you get a little bit better gas mileage. And sure, the tire pressure monitoring system doesn't work anymore. It does the ABS. And the check engine light's on. But that's because the catalytic converters are hollowed out. This is Tennessee after all. Cylinder deactivation still works. I personally wouldn't use it. You lose too much power. But as we take a corner, the corner's fine. Beefed up suspension still holding up. And now this isn't the police horn, but he put a nice air horn on it. People are gonna hear you coming with that one. And as we glide back into the driveway, really not a bad ride at all. Especially since it costs $0. And you might say, okay, he had to spend a fortune fixing it. No, he didn't. He messes with cars all the time. He had a bunch of parts lying around. Obviously, the hood isn't original, because you can see it was white underneath and the car was blue. He had stuff lying around. He just put on stuff. He even had Volvo parts, hoses and stuff that fit on this. So I use them instead. You can see this thing is beefed up. You get a good view of it since part of it's missing from being smashed up, but it still handles pretty good. Now this was a real American fix. This has got their other vehicle on the chain. They pulled it out to straighten it out. Now normally I'd say that's pure insanity, but it tracks straight and corners fine. Shows you how solid they built these cop cars. Just bend it back out and down the road you go. And sure, having a V6, it goes more like a kitten than a screaming lion, like a V8 would, but you can still have a lot of fun in one of these things, and you can get them dirt cheap because most guys want the V8s. I got a V8 cop car, they soup them up. This is still a cop car. You can have a lot of fun in it, and you don't have to spend hardly any money at all. And if they ever go bad, there's a zillion of them in junkyards to throw in. Finding parts for these is no problem at all. You can have a lot of fun with one of these cars. You little lights, you're looking for stuff at night, just make sure you turn the lights on in his driveway or on private land and not on public streets, or you may be getting a little visit from the man and a real big ticket. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Garman says I got a 2016 Toyota Tacoma automatic transmission V6. I need to clean my battery terminals. Do I need to use a memory saver? I watched Scotty's videos and he recommends using one. I've read horror stories about how harmful. What do you say? Okay, get one. It's a Toyota. They're well made. They have no problems. I made a little short the other day about one. It's basically, you get one of the systems. I bought mine on Amazon for like $16. One end plugs into the OBD port. Then the other end has both a cigarette lighter. You can plug it in another car's cigarette lighter, or a positive and negative alligator clip. Put those on any 12-volt battery. Then clean your terminals and put it on. Won't hurt anything. Now, yes, on some funky cars, like BMWs, Porsches, a lot of German cars, they have real high tech. And if you put that on, sometimes there's so much power that's used when the car is off, it can cause problems. So you don't want to do that in a Mercedes or BMW. That's why it says on all those BMWs, do not change the battery in your car. Let a professional mechanic who understands BMW do it, because they're going to have to reset everything and they're going to be real careful not to short anything out. Those cars, you buy a car like that, you're asking for an endless money pit, costs a fortune to repair and maintain. It's your fault for buying a car in the first place. But a Toyota, no. That system won't hurt anything. But do, as I say, get the memory saver that's 12 volts. Don't get a 9-volt one. 9-volt will work because your computer works only 5 volts. But the 9-volt ones don't have that much power. Get one that runs on 12 volts that you plug in there, and you will not have any problems at all in a Toyota. Old Elon's probably shaking in his boots because, as old Scotty predicted, electric cars are really better for small electric cars for short distances that don't cost that much. The Freeze Nicrob EV is going to start distribution in mid-August in Europe. Realize that the Wulong Mini EV in June sold 29,000 cars in China. Tesla sold 16,000 cars in China at the same time. So they've already well overtaken them. And this is just the tip of the iceberg as far as I'm concerned. Electric cars are great for small, city, running around stuff. These things can only go like, 100 miles or less. But a lot of trips are made that way. People in cities. People who would like an electric car that's small, that fits in spaces. They're not pulling things with these, they're not towing things, right? And they're going to be distributing these things throughout Europe. That's the situation where electric cars actually fit better. Their laws are changing for that, but they have smaller areas to drive in. They're closer together. And, you go into London with a gasoline car, you have to pay a certain amount of fine every time, right? You go in an electric car, you don't have to. It makes sense in these areas. A small car that's efficient. For the American road, where we got endless expanse of roads, electric cars, pretty stupid if you're doing a lot of long distance driving. It only makes common sense. Go small and then work your way up to big when you get more efficient. And maybe if we do get to a point where there's fuel cell cars where you just pump liquid ammonia into the tank and drive it that way, that'll fill up exactly the same as quickly as it does a regular car. Filling up with gasoline. Pretty smart that these Chinese guys are taking in Europe, and they've already oversold them almost twice in China, and they just started over Tesla, that they will take over smaller car manufacturers, lower price ones. And watch out, Volkswagen's making the electric cars down the street in Chattanooga, Tennessee here pretty soon. So realize they're going to be smaller cars out at a better price, and they're going to have the leg up, not a guy who's selling $50,000 to $140,000 electric cars. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.